friends, and welcome back to Nourish with Regina, my weekly podcast where we talk about transforming your plate and transforming your life. I'm Regina, a certified nutrition coach, wife, mom of four, lifelong lover of cooking, and just a woman in her 40s trying to be the healthiest she can be. Today, we're going to tackle a topic that affects every single one of us: sugar. Not just the obvious sweet stuff we put into our coffee or baked goods, but the hidden sugars that are quietly sneaking into our everyday foods. The sugar we don't taste, don't see, and often don't even know is there. But it impacts our energy, our mood, our inflammation, and even our lifelong health. So take a deep breath. This episode isn't about guilt, it's about awareness and empowerment. The more we know and what to look for, the better we can make healthier swaps and choices at the grocery store, out to eat, and in our everyday life. So sugar literally is everywhere. And I really mean everywhere. It's added to bread, yogurt, salad dressings, pasta sauce, condiments, granola bars, protein bars, coffee creamer, and even in some cases, food that's labeled healthy, low fat, or organic. But let's talk about why sugar is such a problem and what it actually does inside of our body. Calmly, simply, and truthfully. Sugar spikes your blood sugar, and fast. When you eat something sugary, glucose floods into your bloodstream. Your pancreas then releases insulin, whose job it is to shuttle that glucose into your cells. The issue? When this happens too often, insulin stays elevated and your cells eventually stop responding. This is known as insulin resistance, a root cause of fatigue, weight gain, belly fat, hormone imbalance, type 2 diabetes. Sugar fuels inflammation. It triggers the release of inflammatory markers in the body. Those can worsen joint pain, headaches, skin condition, gut issues, autoimmune flares if you have an autoimmune disease. Sugar really is not your friend. Inflammation in and of itself isn't bad. It's just your body trying to protect you, but chronic inflammation becomes damaging. And sugar is one of the biggest contributors. Sugar also disrupts your gut microbiome. And a healthy microbiome is so important to overall health. The bacteria in your gut eat what you eat. Too much sugar feeds the not so helpful bacteria, allowing them to crowd out the good ones that support immunity, digestion, and even mental health. This can cause bloating, constipation, cravings, weakened immunity, and brain fog. None of those are fun to deal with on a daily basis. Sugar can even affect your brain and your mood. It creates a quick dopamine hit, the feel-good neurotransmitter, but the high is soon followed by a crash, leading to irritability, anxiety, low mood, exhaustion, more sugar cravings. This is why sugar kind of feels addictive, because in many ways it is. When it releases that dopamine, it triggers your body to want more of what gives you that. You got to really watch out for that, especially when you start your journey off of sugar. Sugar also hides under dozens of different names. So some of the things you can look for in your labeling instead of just sugar is fructose, maltose, dextrose, barley malt, cane juice, brown rice syrup, agave nectar, fruit juice concentrate. If you see an OSE ending word or any syrup, it's more than likely sugar. This is why reading labels matter, not obsessively, but just with awareness. So 7 years ago, I decided the right choice for me was to go off sugar and see if it did help the way I felt. I was tired of feeling in pain. As I talked about in an earlier episode, I have been diagnosed with fibromyalgia and Hashimoto's thyroiditis. So both of those are immune diseases. And I was in pain all the time. I was tired all day long. I woke up tired. I went to bed exhausted, and I got tired of feeling that way. I couldn't lose weight. I just felt gross. So I started researching, and sugar consumption stood out as a major culprit in all of these things I was feeling. And let me tell you, I had no idea how much sugar I was actually eating without realizing it. So my biggest challenges came down to two things: learning everything that had hidden sugar in it and discovering it was pretty much everything, and managing cravings, real strong, emotional, triggering cravings. The first few months were hard. I'm not going to lie to you. The challenge was grocery shopping took longer. I had to read labels to everything, learning the healthy swaps to make. I spent time reteaching my taste buds different flavors. I put little notes around the house on why I was doing this. I wanted more energy. I wanted less inflammation. I wanted to be in a better mood and a stable mood. I wanted to lose weight. And I wanted to be healthy in the long term for my family. So I really got serious about meal planning. It was a weekly routine I had. I sat down with my calendar and some cookbooks at the start. I bought some cookbooks for sugar and, well, not for sugar, but for sugar-free kind of healthy recipes. Um, I really learned to lean on grocery delivery and pickup because then I wouldn't be tempted by the things that I see as I walk down every aisle of the grocery store. And so that really helped stay on track. And it also helped with our budget too, because you're not putting all that extra, oh, that looks good, or that's on sale kind of things into your cart. So even though it was really challenging at first, I want to tell you the payoff was incredible. Within just a few months, my energy stabilized. I didn't feel like I needed a nap at 2 o'clock in the afternoon every day. My joint pain decreased. My sugar cravings obviously decreased. Bloating was reduced. My mood leveled out. And I even lost a bit of weight. So it was a win-win for sure. And eventually my cravings for sugar and sweet things disappeared altogether. Now, today, if I eat anything overly sugary, it makes me feel sick and nauseous. And so I think that's a good sign that our bodies weren't meant to process those large amounts of sugar. So when you reduce your sugar, you realize how good your body is supposed to feel. And I really want all of you to feel that way too. So first, the first thing we'll need to do to feel better is to recognize where sugar hides. So it hides in a lot of places we don't expect, especially in foods marked as healthy. So here are some of the biggest culprits I want you to watch out for, especially at the grocery store. Flavored yogurts and plant-based milk. Some yogurts have more sugar than ice cream. Many almond and oat milks have sugar to improve flavor. You really have to read labels on this. And anything that's a flavored label, like vanilla almond milk, those kind of things are really going to have something added to them for that flavoring and sweetness. So you really have to watch out for that. Salad dressings and sauces. These are big ones. If you don't know, ketchup is 25% sugar. That's astounding to me. Barbecue sauce, even higher. Some marinara sauces have 3 to 4 teaspoons of sugar per serving. And all of those things are easy to make quick. You don't have to be skilled or anything. And actually, if you want to follow my YouTube channel, I'll have some recipes on there. I'm going to do an episode soon, a cooking episode about salad dressings and even how to make your own ketchup so that you're not getting all that added sugar. Cereals, granola bars, protein bars, really watch out for those. Many people don't think of bread as sweet, but a lot of breads contain added sugar to enhance taste and shelf life. It's kind of a preservative too. I'm not saying everybody has to go out and bake their own bread every week, but if bread is something you enjoy, maybe it'll cost a little more, but you can get healthier bread, the whole grains, the nuts and seeds. Just make sure you're reading those labels to see what kind of sugar content they've added to the bread. Yeah, protein bars and granola bars are huge for sugar. A lot of them have corn syrup in them too. So if you want to find something that's maybe sweetened with dates, I'm not a big proponent of cereal and granola bars and things like that. Anyways, I don't think they have a lot of health benefits to offer, but if that's something you love to start your day with a bowl of cereal, then just read your labels. Smoothies, juices, coffee drinks. Juice is liquid sugar, pretty much. I'm not a big fan of juicing, and fruit and vegetable juices. Basically, to get a juice, you're stripping all of the fiber out of the fruit or vegetable. So all you're left really is with the sugar from that fruit or vegetable left, even if it's 100% juice. Your body will read it as sugar. So you have to really be careful with that. Fancy coffees, a lot of those, if you're, going through the coffee shop line, you're looking at 40 or more grams of sugar usually. A lot of this is just about awareness. A lot of packaged low fat foods, which they might be low fat, they remove the fat, but then they add sugar to help it taste good again because fat adds flavor. So they use sugar instead to add the flavor. So now that we've hit some of those common sugar hiding places, we're going to talk about easy swaps and strategies that we can do so you can start feeling better really soon. And this is the empowering part. You don't have to quit sugar forever. You just need to be better equipped to make those healthy swaps so you can feel your best going forward. So sweet cravings. This is going to be like we talked about earlier in this episode, that sugar releases those dopamine and it's going to make you feel good. And then it's going to create a craving. We've all had sugar cravings that you're going to want to satisfy. So instead of ice cream, maybe try some frozen Greek non-fat yogurt with some berries, maybe a little bit of stevia. If you have some fruit, 100% natural fruit preserves with no sugar added, I like to stir those in. I also I love peanut butter, but if you get a good defatted peanut butter flour and mix that in with your yogurt and a little bit of stevia, it's like a peanut butter ice cream kind of feeling, and it's kind of guilt-free. I do this a lot for breakfast. Instead of candy, get a square of dark chocolate, maybe with a handful of almonds. When you're eating dark chocolate, you really want it to be 85% or higher dark chocolate. Those are going to have the least amount of sugar in them. Baked goods. This is somebody, when you're at work and somebody brings donuts in and whatever, maybe you keep an apple in your lunchbox with some peanut butter or cinnamon or some of that Greek yogurt with the peanut flour we talked about. That's really good with apples dipped in it too. And then instead of sugary granola nuts and seeds, get unsweetened coconut flakes or, peanuts. Crush them up a little bit to sprinkle, just to eat, or handfuls of those. It's just really good to think about, one, where you want your calories to go, but how it's going to make you feel in the long run. So let's talk about drink swaps. So instead of soda, I know soda is a big thing. Most people I know drink soda. Maybe try sparkling water instead with some lemon or berries in it. Instead of sweetened coffee with coffee creamer, maybe you use some almond milk or coconut milk, or make sure those don't have added sugars in them either. Maybe a little bit of protein powder even would make your coffee creamy enough for you, and then you're getting the benefit of added protein. So instead of juice, eat the whole fruit. You're getting the fiber, way less sugar. It's not so concentrated, and the fiber really will help the digestion and the processing of the sugar in your body. Condiments. We all have that door in our fridge that's just filled with condiments. I dare you go read the labels and see how much sugar you're containing in such small amounts. I think, a tablespoon or 2 tablespoons of a salad dressing is usually a serving. And, the sugar content in those can range really high. Instead of like marinara sauce, they do make no sugar added sauces and they taste better in my opinion, but it's so easy to make your own with some crushed tomatoes and a can of tomato sauce, and make sure that tomatoes are the only ingredient in both of those. And actually, I'm going to do a video on that later on my YouTube channel too. So follow and subscribe. You won't miss any of those. But seriously, making your own pasta sauce is one of the easiest things ever. Instead of the sugary dressings, you can always use like oil and vinegar, olive oil, avocado oil, and vinegar. You can use, red wine vinegar, apple cider vinegar, balsamic vinegar, any of those. Sorry, my nose itches. Instead of ketchup, you can buy ketchup now with no added sugar. Ketchup is also super easy to make on your own, and then you can kind of develop the flavors in a way that you like best that goes with whatever you like to eat ketchup on. I'm not a huge ketchup fan, but my kids are. So that was a big swap. to get rid of a lot of sugar for them when we started going to a more healthy way of eating for our whole family was the ketchup was a big one, but it is super easy to make on your own. Um, Cooking swaps. So if you love those cereals or oatmeal, find one with no added sugar, just the plain brown rice squares or plain oatmeal, and then add some cinnamon and vanilla to it instead of sugar. Unsweetened applesauce is a good substitute in baking. It'll still give you the sweetness that apples have without the added sugar. Roasted vegetables, which I think I've talked about this on every episode. I love roasted vegetables. And it really, when you roast them at a slow heat, it really brings out the natural sweetness in the vegetables. So things like carrots, sweet potatoes, squash, can sometimes be used to sweeten other things too. It's just delicious. I love roasted vegetables. And then all these small changes are going to add up. Obviously, you don't have to change everything all at once. I would recommend, start small. Or maybe you start with your breakfast and try and reduce the sugar in your breakfast by at least half, and then go further. So switch your coffee creamer to be something that doesn't have all the added sugar, especially if you like those flavored. Getting into peppermint mocha season. You get the peppermint mocha coffee creamer. Believe me, I think that sounds delicious too, but it does have so much sugar in it. Reduce the sugar in your oatmeal. So just for the next week, let's focus on breakfast and see how you can reduce the sugar in your breakfast. And if you don't eat breakfast, then you really should consider it. And we'll talk about that more later on why it's important to eat frequently and keep your body kind of scheduled on eating. Or just replace your afternoon snack that you have with something healthy, like an apple with peanut butter, a little bit of peanut butter. No sugar added peanut butter. Peanut butter is another big one. They add a lot of sugar to peanut butters. If you have like an organic grocery store, a lot of them will have, you can just churn your own peanut butter from peanuts, and I think it's delicious. So just watch the sugar in your peanut butter too. But peanut butter is a good source of protein if it doesn't have a bunch of added sugar to it. So one small change a week becomes 52 changes in a year. And little by little, your taste buds will change. I know a lot of people when they start with stevia, which I want to be clear is not an artificial sweetener, but it's a plant. It's a sweetener that comes from a plant. But they don't like the way it tastes, and they think all their food tastes weird. Just like have some resolve and stay with it, because your taste buds will change and the food will start tasting better. I promise you. We're just so used to being inundated with so much sugar and sweetness in our foods. It really masks the original taste of the food. We're not used to it. So you just got to give it some time. I promise it'll get better. So cutting back on sugar supports pretty much every system in our body. So first, it's going to stabilize your blood sugar and your energy. So no more 2 p.m. crashes, no more caffeine dependence, no more like hangry minutes. Adding protein to your meals too will also help with this. So if you find yourself being hangry a lot, and we'll do a whole episode on protein too, I'm sure. But that's a really good way to keep that from happening. It's going to reduce inflammation. So less joint pain, and as you get older, the joint pain seems to be more and more. So reducing sugar is going to help that tremendously. It's going to reduce bloating. It's going to make your skin look better, more glowing, more soft, and it's going to help you digest better. Your digestive tract's going to thank you for cutting down the sugar. I promise you. Weight management that feels natural. When your insulin levels are stable, your fat storage decreases. You don't have to starve yourself. Your hormones will do the work for you. So really taking care of that gut microbiome is going to be one of the biggest factors in weight loss for you. And sugar just disrupts that like it's nobody's business, honestly. Good bacteria thrive on fiber and not sugar. Reducing sugar leads to better digestion, less bloating, fewer cravings. We've talked about all those things before. It also directly impacts your neurotransmitters. So when people start going off of sugar, they notice, fewer mood swings. Maybe their thinking's clearer. They have more stable emotions. Have you ever seen a kid that maybe has, really gotten into that Halloween candy bucket, and then there's tears and fits and everything? Sugar disrupts our mood. And it'll do the same thing for adults too. It just maybe doesn't come in a form of a, tantrum per se, but it does. It does disrupt our moods and our neurotransmitters. I also notice better sleep. And then there's wonderful long-term benefits and health protection from reducing sugar. And those are you're going to lower your risk of heart disease. You're going to lower your risk of diabetes. You're going to have a healthier liver function, better metabolic resilience. And it isn't, don't cut sugar for vanity. Do it for vitality. You want to feel better. You want to live longer. You want to have a healthier and a better quality of life as you age, not necessarily just so you can lose your last 20 pounds or whatever you're trying to lose there. Now, I'm not going to tell you it's going to be easy because cutting sugar does come with side effects. And not all of them are good side effects. At least they're not going to feel good to start with. So we're going to normalize them. We're going to talk about them. So temporary but absolutely normal side effects of cutting sugar is going to be headaches. You're going to get a headache because your body is missing something that you've been feeding it for so long. Fatigue. You will feel tired at first. Again, this is your body trying to adjust to this new normal of not consuming all of this sugar. You might be a little cranky and irritable. You'll have cravings. You got to power through it. I promise you. And you might even feel a little bit of brain fog. Again, this is just your body trying to figure out what's going on, for one, doing without something that it's had pretty much every day, and then, adjusting for the new normal you're trying to set for your body. So these side effects last about 3 to 7 days for most people. This is your brain and your gut recalibrating. And then we get into the positive side effects of cutting this. And that's going to be, like we talked about before, clear skin, better mood, better sleep, reduced bloating, fewer cravings, steady energy or more energy, mental clarity, less joint pain, improved digestion. I'm just going to say the good outweighs the bad by a mile. So now you know the why and the what. So let's talk about the how. Like, how are we going to do this successfully? And so I have some tips for success. First one is plan your meals. Sit down, take the time, take an hour on a weekend or an evening when you don't have anything going on. I know, which, around here doesn't happen too often. So I do mine on Sundays. And then I go to the grocery store right after. So Sunday is basically my meal prep day. I plan my meal, I get the food, and I prep the food. If you don't want to spend the time in the grocery store, use the grocery pickup or the delivery to avoid temptations, especially at the beginning while you're trying this, because those temptations are going to be loud. Keep healthy snacks ready. Be prepared. Keep something in your purse that you can snack on, some almonds or a piece of fruit or something, because if you're out somewhere longer than you plan to be and those cravings hit, you'd rather be prepared and have something in your purse or your car than, be tempted to go through the drive-through and pick up cheese curds and a vanilla milkshake or something like that. So spices are going to be your friend. I know I have some friends on the number of spices I have. I have a cupboard and I have 5 little spice racks hanging on the wall full of different spices. But spices are going to be your friend because you can use those to flavor your food. They're going to bring out the natural flavors of the food without adding sugar. So the spices reduce slowly. Don't be like, I'm quitting cold turkey on sugar. Gradually work into it. Like I said, make one change a week, make little changes, maybe pick a meal. And then once you've mastered breakfast, move on to your afternoon snack for a few weeks. And once you feel like you've mastered that, you can then move on to, maybe your lunches for the week. But really, gradually is the way to do it. We don't want to feel overwhelmed or like it's too much that it's not going to happen at all. And cutting sugar doesn't have to be all or nothing. It can be a gentle, mindful, and empowering experience. And when you notice you start feeling better, that's going to give you the momentum and the drive to keep going. So if you're ready to take control of your blood sugar or sugar in your diet, you can go to my website, www.nourishwithregina.com, and download my free sugar balancing meal guide. There's some fun recipes in there, some hints and tips and why it's so important. There are some of the things we talked about here to balance your blood sugar. Subscribe to this podcast, leave a review, share it with a friend who might need a little encouragement today. I want to thank you for being here. Remember, sugar doesn't have to control your energy, your mood, or your health. Awareness, small swaps, and intentional choices go a long way. I can't wait to see you back here next week. Talk to you later, friends. Bye.